there. My name is Becca Mucheng, founding director at Proxima, whereby we build software to make companies customer-centric. And today I'm so delighted to be joined by these two people. On my left is Josh. Yeah, Josh is a very, very good friend of mine. Yeah. Then on my right we do have Kiende. Yeah. So let me simply give them some few minutes to talk about themselves, what they do, and then we can start the podcast for today. Josh.
Yeah, thank you again, once again, Beckham, for the invitation. As you mentioned before, my name is Joshua. I am a very passionate individual. I'm passionate about e-mobility. I am co-founder and CEO at Evolt East Africa. Evolt basically is an EV services provider. We have business solutions and practical solutions as well for fleet management to EV charging services for individuals. We are in the business of building great experiences into the charging space and the management of e-mobility and sustainability. So basically that's just a gist of what we are as of now, but it's much more than that as well. I think we'll talk about more when we get into the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Beckham, for having me here. My name is Kiende, and I am in the client relations space. So client relations, client support, and also in product management and design. And I'm really passionate about data-driven insights, using data and feedback from clients to improve different products. Yes, that is my area of
sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think I'm in the best spot today because my background is in artificial intelligence, whereby I deal with so much data, and I'm also passionate about cars, especially the Cybertruck. I wish I had something like $110,000 now, $2 to go pick it up, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Kenya is a very beautiful country. Also, the people now who build things in Kenya, we must first of all admit that there's so many tech in Kenya.
Yeah.
There's so many young people trying to build things. And when we now talk about tech, first of all we talk about cars. Yeah, because for now most of the cars are now combustion based. Yeah, but what now do you think is the major now block in terms of people in terms of now people shifting to the Cybertrucks of the now world?
Now, it's a lot of people are focused on the internal combustion engines, the cars, and they actually have a very huge market share in Africa, and specifically in sub-Saharan Africa. Well, there's a market shift in the international sector, and if you look at countries abroad, you find that there's a lot of people transitioning from ICE to e-mobility, and some are already 100% transitioned. Case point, we have Norway, we have countries that also, Sweden and Scandinavian countries are really far ahead in terms of this. We also have the USA, which is
California, right? They pass laws to make it now simpler.
Yes, and also close at home, this year starting, so Ethiopia have actually banned importation of ICE vehicles for this year. So it's actually a burgeoning, a gradual transition, but a major challenge that is actually being faced by most countries is the expense. We find the major contributing factor in the cost of EVs is the battery supplies and battery costs, and
called charging.
The lithium, the lithium-ion batteries and battery freaks, and you find that there's a gap in the supply chain, and it's actually being dominated by China. So there's that sense in terms of getting the right supplies, and also it's actually technology intensive. And if you look at countries,
capital intensive.
Capital intensive as well. And if you look at countries like Africa, where we have a gap in terms of technology, it's hard to convince people to transition. And also, of course, we have the major oil companies fighting, the transition, but this is only happening in Africa, which is a strange factor. And all these companies are on.
Okay, sure. So my next question would be, can policy shape up that to be much more simpler? When the government comes up with now some good policies incentives, maybe?
Yeah, okay. You can actually say Kenya has the clearest policy in terms in Africa. But the problem comes in implementation, where we have there's also the government commitment and the government commitment to actually deliver on what is put down on paper.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, for instance, in Vision 2030, we had that Kenya should have been 20% of the vehicles in Kenya should be electric by 2030, but I don't see that happening because of the commitment. But if you see other progressive countries like Rwanda and Ethiopia doing such strides, you can find that it's easier. Kenya can actually do it when you commit. So yeah, its policy is there, and
maybe like a tax credit, maybe when you buy like a certain car.
Yeah, there's tax credit. So there are two. I can just give an example.
Yeah.
One, this one has been there from 2020, where KRA actually gives 20% in tax incentive on electric vehicle.
Okay.
Then our president actually mentioned this, that was supposed to be part of our budget, that the first 100 EV vehicles to be imported to Kenya would be tax-free.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I think there's that.
Okay.
So maybe the implementation part is what we have a problem with.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so like coming to Kiende, like how do you think when you have enough data on some things, we can shape up that particular transition to become much more simpler? Yeah.
Right, so with every product, there's the initial design, and on paper everything looks perfect.
Yeah.
So, but then we have the iteration and the redesign, which is very important for growth, and that always comes from the users.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a clear channel of feedback from the users, and this feedback also needs to be structured in a way that can be useful. So what kind of service are you putting out there, right?
For sure.
What kind of data are you looking to get? What kind of feedback? How are you structuring this? And how are you also analyzing this to provide relevant
Okay, sure, but you see the pain point now becomes like we don't have much data on like on now this particular topic in Kenya. Yeah, because like it's a very new thing, and like it's a very difficult thing for so many people. Yeah, like for so many people to now do. Like because like number one, when you now go to buy like a car, like you won't find a car that now you can pay a charge on a certain peer dealer. Yeah, so like that becomes like a very big problem like now in terms of the transition. Yeah, so like for myself, I think it's maybe trying to pick a certain program by a certain peer country. You can pick one from the from now California, like a certain tax incentive. You can say, okay, like the cops can be pulling up with now these particular cars. Yeah, because like for the peer government, like it becomes much more simpler in terms of doing that for them. And then you can say, okay, like you can come up with this particular incentives, but I think the best one can be assembly. Yeah, because like when you talk about assembly, basically, like once you've set up like a certain structure, you can now give some very good tax policies to some now peer companies, saying, okay, like when you come do it here, you won't pay tax. You see, the same way Mexico was now trying to do it. I think China was trying to build some very big car factories in Mexico so that they can sell them
to the US market.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but Trump said, okay, when you do it 200%.
Yeah, you have to, the tariffs have to reflect.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But this being a discussion, maybe I could ask,
do
you have is there proof that this is working in the countries you've mentioned, for example, like Mexico?
Yeah.
Is this working, and like what what has been the response from the
okay, so like
public?
okay, like maybe Josh is better placed to
in terms of supply chain management for these countries, it's a double-edged sword. When you think of it, a country like China, there's a great economic fight between China and the US. Now it's like welcoming your competitor at your next door. Now, because one of the problem is they're going to enjoy better tariffs, better tax cut, and they're going actually to
distribution becomes cheaper.
Their distribution for them becomes cheaper, and when the product comes to your market, they give competition to you, and you actually end up being loss-making because they are cheaper.
Cost of labor.
Yeah, cost of labor is cheaper. You also they also, China is one of these countries that has an end-to-end supply chain for all of its products. This is from sourcing of raw materials to the processing plants to manufacturing, and also to the final product in the market.
Yeah. Okay, like one thing that I think China has done so perfectly, like they have monopolized battery manufacturing.
Yes.
Like that's on them. Like they make so many batteries that it's not even funny anymore.
And
because they do control now this particular now minerals, cobalt, lithium, and then I think they came up with a new form of battery that is extremely efficient. I think it's now not the typical which now makes it much more simpler. Yeah, but when you talk about Africa on its own, like it's a very, very different case, to be honest, because number one, energy is still a problem to us. Like we still can't meet like our own requirements in terms of now generating something like enough for the things to do. That's why manufacturing is still now expensive. That's why like we do have power blackouts. That's why most of the time we are now pulling in Adani to come try to do some things. Yeah, so like I think that's like for me the biggest problem.
Yeah, okay, that's true. But in my own personal opinion, you actually have to consider the energy resources we're using. I feel we're not really maximizing our production, considering that, for instance, a country like Kenya, where 92% of the energy needs is actually renewable. So that means we are able to sustain our needs if we implement and put the capital and effort where it's needed. So also, if you look at it, most of these minerals that are actually powering this EV boom actually sourced in Africa. And we have occurrences where we, as the nation,
don't have coltan in Kenya.
Yeah, we don't even know much about the resources that actually live in our countries.
Then,
and they come back as finished product, and which are more expensive than when it left.
Yeah, then it's so funny because I think I went to where coltan is mined. It was in June or July, I think. So like when I go to this particular place, it's somewhere deep. Like it's very, very remote. Like it was a very tough journey. But the name is so difficult. I don't want to butcher the name. It was something like Kiangu, Sasa Nguro or something. So like when I go there, like the place is just deserted fully. Like no, like just nothing inafanyika kabisa. Like the people just mine, which is like basically artisanal mining. And we can do some of these things by ourselves. Something like battery manufacturing. We can manufacture just some simple ones to make it simpler in terms of like when now someone brings in a car and like the battery won't be so much of a peer hassle. But now like when you want to buy a certain battery, there was a time when I did board a certain cab and the guy, I think it was Prius. So like he said, the battery is like that's the biggest challenge. Then you consider that it was not like a pure electric vehicle. It was a sort of like a pure hybrid. So like it might take some time, but I think the curve now is like this. But at some point, based on the proper policies, it can be like this.
There's policy also is important, but you also have to look at what's the prevailing factors at the moment. We don't have the technological know-how in terms of, for instance, batteries are usually the highest. If you look at the cost of an EV, almost the highest percentage of cost goes to the battery, and you find that this battery is made from highly refined minerals, and access to that technology is actually limited in our context as Kenyan at the moment, and we don't have that know-how, so we tend to ship out the products. Now a big part of the cost is from these companies is actually from research and development, because everyone is looking for the cheapest, the longest mileage in terms of everyone has has requirements to what they need for their vehicle, and also there's range anxiety for a lot of people. So if, for instance, a company like Tesla comes and say we are offering a battery that is capable of offering 700 kilometers, and you get BYD from China also coming and saying you can do it at 1,000. Now you see there's that difference, because one has done so much in terms of research and developing on one area. In this case, particular being producing effective batteries and storage. So Kenya, we can get there as a country. We can get, one day probably we'll get there as a country, but this is a challenge that needs a lot of technocrats. We need a lot of people in government to push these investments and people to actually see the future and not do things that actually, and we need to be long-sighted, in short.
If I may ask, given that you're talking about policies and opportunities, would that be the only opportunity we have in the topic of EVs? Because I think we have other challenges surrounding this, like I think the disposal, for example.
Yes,
and so as a country or even as a continent, could we focus on other challenges that are associated to this that are yet to be solved? I feel like if we focused on some of these areas that we don't have so many governments already working on this, we could have maybe a chance of being part of what is happening in this sector.
No, I think I'm best fit to answer that, which is actually interesting. It's very factual. That's the part where we have people coming into the space, and not necessarily the government, but individuals. Companies like Evolve is actually best positioned to come in this, to fill this gap, because another challenge we said was with EVs, they're not like cars. You just go to the fuel and you find charging. It takes some time, and the fastest way to solve this is swapping, and swapping is actually effective for in our country is actually effective for smaller vehicles. These are the tuk-tuk, the borders, and the rest.
I think there's a company in Kenya.
We have different bike. I think Rome, Doom, EB bikes, and also for that in terms of charging.
Like for myself, I think the swapping might be like a bit tough, because like you consider now instead of charging peer station, you must have like a station like now where someone can come swap like a now peer battery, which I think there's a company in China doing the same. But I don't think it's the most optimal way. But if you consider that there's the now peer home charger, like I met someone and he said that for him, like he basically now charges the car to at home. When he now goes to sleep, he simply plugs in the car, which is somehow like a bit more optimal. And then when we talk about like us as Africa focusing on different things, like I think policies just speed up things, because like you see, for so many people, like they want the incentive to do something, especially the people with like so much money. Like for them it's not kubahatisha. You can't bahatisha with like $30 million that you want to see whether something can work out. You want to go somewhere, government support, whether it's the policies, whether it's the government to say, okay, like when you now do this, like you won't pay tax, land for free, energy, tax. Like it's basically just something to say, okay, like we are now making sure that your path to success is like a very high probability. So like that's the main point of government policy. Then, like I think, okay, like we see the problem, we might be left too far behind, because like the combustion cars, like we still can't build such cars in Kenya, like we can't. And so like if we try to depend on that so much, yet it's like not even our thing, it might be like a bit tough. And just as Josh said, we should be long-sighted, meaning that the tech that will shape tomorrow, like is what we should now be focusing on, so that when we start now, after like 5, 10, 15 years, the market can be like a bit more mature.
Maybe just to add on what you said in terms of government policy and in terms of the charging, I just want to know that in EV it's not the same as ICE, where one size fits all. There's if you look at the ICE space, you find that the only difference is either you're using diesel, super, or that's the only difference. But when it comes to EV, it's much more complex, because on the surface level we have difference where someone can some cars are not fast chargers.
Yeah, for sure.
Same as phones. Some phones are fast charging, some phones are slow. Yeah. So with EV, it's not one size fits all. That's why we need to invest in technologies that actually support everyone. So we can have the same EVs. What works for you doesn't work for me. That's the problem. And you find that this access to this information is limited. And also we have companies like Tesla that actually build their own charging infrastructures. And this is, and in the EV space, we have limited OEMs, suppliers and manufacturers. So being able to service an entire market becomes hard because it's highly segmented. But when you can actually predict these needs and you can actually offer services based on what this, the user actually has at that moment. Be it, for instance, in battery swapping is highly effective for people in shared mobility, people in logistics, and people just operating fleets, which is faster for them. And home charging works for some people, but you also find that a lot of people have range anxiety because I want to go to Nakuru today and I have a home charger. Am I going to carry it? And okay, impossible. It's a hard question. And okay, if I can carry it, if I can go to Nakuru, will I be able to find a charger that is compatible to my vehicle needs? And is it actually going to be, because charging again is different levels, and some are more energy inefficient than others. So you find everyone has their own guidelines in terms of if you're going to a hotel, a house, and energy needs are different. So also another thing that we actually do as Evolt is we offer load management. So load management here comes in that we offer software that actually manages the power distribution for networks in charging. So exactly. EV space is highly segmented in terms of the needs. But being able to understand these needs of individual users, actually makes it easier for us to service a market.
Okay, though, like for me, I normally look at things in the perspective that if you can solve something for like maybe now 8% of the people, like that is the most important segment. So like I think you can come up with a certain controlled way, and like of basically trying to speed up things. But first of all, you must address peer energy. You must address storage. Because like we lose so much energy just by the distribution itself. But I think it's a very interesting space. Though my vision is to see companies trying to build the next set of cars in Kenya, maybe certain parts. Because like for a car itself, there's like 1,000 parts that now go into a car. For the now electric vehicle cars, it's a bit few. Like especially if you consider something like now pure giga casting, which now Tesla does. Like they basically take a plate of metal, and then they just cast it, like to the shape. But I think after some time we might start getting there, but there should be some capital being invested, because like on the software side, I don't think there's like a very big problem.
There's no big gap.
Because like if you consider most of the software being built in most of these now peer countries, like it's basically being built by Kenyans. Like I think for Kenyans, the software space
is like, really
like top notch. Top notch. Because like I talked to some people like whom have done with some few things. Nigeria, Uganda, Cameroon, and Kenya is just like the home of innovations. So like, okay, go on.
I was just seconding whatever you're saying in terms of Kenya being a home of innovation from different fields.
So like myself, like I don't see the dream of 2030, like the vision 2030 so much, because like I've gone to Konza, I think it was this year, and trust me, like it still does not look like the vision 2030 that we were promised.
Exactly. I think what it should have been, it should have just been a roadmap in terms of we shouldn't get to 2030 and assess the fulfillment of every promises that was made, because also there's so many gaps in. But in some way, when you're setting your own goals and plans, you always have different times where you actually sit down and assess, okay, this is how far I've reached. But for Vision 2020, it was far-fetched. I think there's a very huge gap between what was to be done, and the review that each government has to do in terms of the progress has been made at every different stage. So I think that's what's there for.
Yeah, because like I think the main concern like is when a new president comes in, like they want their own thing, like they want their own thing that okay, like when I do this particular thing, like people will know like my okay, like for no example, the previous president, like when you go to like kila part of the country, you will find like a tarmac,
sensitive topic.
In a way, like, okay, like for myself, like I've seen some very, very good PR roads, like in very, very remote places. You see, but now for now it's affordable housing, different topic, all the same. But I think Kibaki though put a burden on Kenya by the Vision 2030. Yeah, because like you can't come up with a vision that you like won't be there, like especially when you know like the structures of peer governance in Kenya.
Yeah, but I think as we all know, governments are meant to be in perpetuity, right?
Yeah,
and even as every time a government comes and someone has changing policies, actually to the disadvantage of the people, if you ask me. And it's actually possible to do this by having independence of government institutions and in actually seeing through projects in financing and everything. But I think we are becoming a more, but come and think of it, because of Kibaki's Vision 2030, Kenyans, we now have more developers in Kenya than any other country. We have more innovations. We are churning out so much in terms of technology because of the commitment at that time. So it might have been far-fetched at that moment, but it's actually bearing fruits in all of its angles, if you ask me.
Sure. Okay, so like when I went to Konza and was speaking to like now this particular person, basically to know the budget and like what they are now working with. So for a calendar year, I think they're given something like 5 billion Kenyan shillings.
Yeah.
Do you think it's sufficient like for them to try build up something? That's their budget for the year.
Maybe Kiende can come.
You don't need so much money to
is this the budget for the year?
Yeah, that's their annual budget. And they don't have so many people. It's just, but it's like so much to advanced. Is it enough?
Wow, that's a very, that's a big, is it enough?
Or
it's not enough.
You think it's not enough?
I don't think it's enough. I think the government had the idea that they'd provide land. Then people would come and invest themselves. People they'd provide they would only provide the architecture, but the pace at which they've provided the architecture and everything has been slow. So it's not as promising as it was earlier, and we have 5,000 acres. And we are not finding so many people coming. Okay, case for instance, look at Tatu City. Tatu City came up after Konza City. Okay, I'm not looking at the scale, but I'm just looking at how commitment and implementation can get something running as compared to the likes of Konza.
Well, my question would be: has this been the budget for the last year? Has it grown over the years, or has it been consistent?
Like, I never asked that particular question. Because like simply said, like what's the budget? I never wanted to come out as someone snoopy.
But it's public information.
I'm just joking.
Because I mean, it would help to understand. Is it that the budget has grown, or has it been reduced? Probably if they were getting less and they're not able to do much and now it's grown, it could be that they can be able to do more with it. So I think it's very. On my end, I don't have. There's some bit of data we don't have.
Like for myself, because I went to their data center, and their data center was so good. Like it's basically so big. So like I think they're trying to do some few things. Like especially in terms of building up the now public infrastructure. The theories. Like when you go to Konza, I think they call it the vertical infrastructure. It's top notch. Like the now peer traffic lights. They do have like the way they now segment things. They do have so much artificial intelligence. Like I think if they had some more money,
they'll be able to do more.
But now I think their concern is basically being able to pull up the private capital. Because like it's a long-term vision. Land is a bit expensive. I think it's like 7 million for a certain plot of land.
Yeah, but you see now, also the thing with projects that most people fail to understand is that at some after the requirement stage, projects just take a life of their own. Yeah.